Hi everyone, I'm Cyber Settler and this is Cyberblog. So in a previous video we were talking about human domestication and how this impacted on human behavior. We made a comparison with what was presented in the movie Idiocracy. I suggest that you watch that video if you haven't seen it. And today we're going to try to answer the question of who or what domesticated humans. So I think I said it in the last video that some were there's a lot of evidence that humans have been domesticated, that they have undergone a process very similar to other domesticated species like dogs, like cattle, and so on. And the question then was who or what domesticated humans? And one answer is that humans were self-domesticated, so humans domesticated themselves. But for me, this begs the question, how is it possible that the same forces that are operating in the human being to become domesticated are operating in the same species to adapt to be the master? So for me, this is somehow two different processes going on that will lead to different outcomes. So for me, it's difficult to entertain it. So it's more logical that, or it's easier if you have a species that is evolving to become a master and another species that evolves to become domesticated. So and then you have these two different forces like acting on different species. So let's take a look at this question. So the first thing that we're going to look at is what compel hunter-gatherers to become farmers. And this is a long process. It didn't happen overnight. So when we think about this process, we are referring to the Neolithic Revolution. This is how it was called. But a revolution brings to mind something that happens in a short period of time, but it wasn't. It was a gradual process. And when we consider that process, we found this interesting work by Sergei Svicero, The Persistent Controversies About the Neolithic Revolution, and he says the following: early agriculturists had to work more hours than foragers did. They were also more prone to little disease and malnutrition as a result of the shift toward dependence on one or a few domesticated plants, with a diet based predominantly on complex carbohydrates. So there are several disadvantages that come with agriculture. If you shift from a hunter-gatherer society to a society that is sedentary and lives on agriculture, and one of them is diseases. You are exposed to diseases, you are exposed to malnutrition, and a poor diet, right? He continues: increasing sedentism and living in close proximity to domestic animals led to poor sanitation and an increased prevalence of zoonotic disease. They also had to endure less egalitarian social structures than hunter-gatherer societies. So if we try to put ourselves in the shoes of hunter-gatherers, and we have to make the decision, like we can decide to leave behind this life form that we have, this habit of hunting and gathering, and we become sedentary. So if we consider that we have to give up our egalitarian society, that we have to expose ourselves to hard working hours and diseases, I mean, what is in it for these societies to change? This is the question. He continues, since there are almost no indications of increased standards of living immediately after the agricultural transition, why complex hunter-gatherers should have decided to give up their way of life in order to adopt agriculture. So, and again, we have to consider this not as an event that happened overnight, but a process. And if you consider what the agricultural society is, in this example we have the Egyptian society. It's a complex society, right? This cannot come overnight. This has to be developed, and there are so many things. For example, we have a complex hierarchy, a social hierarchy. We have different tasks that have to somehow come to be, like farming was like one starting point, but then you have all these other activities that go with agriculture, right? Like this crafting. For example, pottery doesn't come without agriculture. Usually when we find pottery in archaeological sites, it's an indication of a sedentary society. Also, all this trading or writing itself with the scribes, a lot of things. And then all this religion associated with the rulers and the priests. There's a lot of things that have to come up. So in this work that we are citing, there are several possible causes for the transition, and one is the climate and environmental changes. There is population pressure, unconstrained or voluntary adaptation, social competition and feasting, migration, cultural diffusion. So this was a complex process that happened, and the first thing, for example, that we find is climate and environmental changes. So in this case, we find like the Earth was coming out of an ice age. Global temperatures rise, and this gave rise to certain biomes. And one of the biomes that we have is these plains with a lot of cereals plants that facilitated agriculture, or not agriculture as an activity, but more like a sedentism. So there is this idea that first societies stopped like migrating, following the herds they hunted, and became sedentary in one place because there was enough of this cereal stuff to live a year round in the same place. So they didn't gave up on hunter gathering altogether at once, but they just changed one aspect of it. And then this sedentism gave rise to population increase, and this population increase itself became like a a cause for them to change their lifestyle, because they couldn't go back to their previous nomadic lifestyle without sacrificing population. And there's so many things going on. So it didn't happen overnight, and it's possible that they didn't just chose to become sedentary, or to become a fully fledged agricultural society. So this is an important thing. But the other aspect of it that we're considering, because we're talking about the first agricultural societies, is how it then from there extended to other populations, because we find that certain communities were make the transition to agriculture, and then they migrated and came in contact with other hunter-gatherers, and then there's all this dynamic of this exchange between hunter-gatherers and farming societies. And then the question is posed again, how these other hunter-gatherer societies finally adopted a farming culture. And then we talk about cultural diffusion, like we have evidence that hunter-gatherer societies living in proximity with farming societies starting adopting certain aspects of the farming culture, but they didn't become agricultural societies overnight as well. They started adopting several things, for example pottery, and I don't know, some certain craftsmanship or artistic styles and so on, ideas. So at the end, what I want to say is that the clue to what or who domesticating humans lies in the process of becoming from hunter-gatherer to a farming society. And everything started with, or the most basic aspect of any society is the meme. Now, the meme is a term coined by Richard Dawkins in his book The Selfish Gene. And here we have a quote from Wikipedia explaining what it is. So a meme is an idea, a behavior or style that becomes a fad and spreads by means of imitation from person to person within a culture, and often carries symbolic meaning representing a particular phenomenon or theme. So basically a meme is an idea or behavior that can be replicated. And this stands in the core of any society and of any change in society. It continues. A meme acts as a unit for carrying cultural ideas, symbols, practices that can be transmitted from one mind to another through writing, speech, gestures, rituals, or other imitable phenomena with a mimic theme. Support of the concept regard memes as cultural analogs to genes in that they self-replicate, mutate, and respond to selective pressure. So here we have a very interesting idea, right? We have like the meme being an analog of the gene. So the gene is like this hereditary unit of information. It's like a segment of DNA that passes from parent to children, and they encode a certain aspect of a species, certain traits, and often the genes are working in a group. Like we have a group of genes that give a certain trait. So these genes is the basis of evolution, and it gives identity to the species. So we have an analog in what is called a meme. It's an information, or yes, it's the meme exists in the realm of ideas, of symbolism, and it transmits from one mind to another, whereas the gene, it transmits from one generation to another. So one is biological, the other one is ideological. Um, and if we ask, well, genes form an organism, a species. What does meme form? What are they the building blocks of? So, and here also another important thing to note here is that it's explaining that as genes are subject to evolutionary pressure, also the meme is. So anything that is that has the meme as its unit, building unit, will be subject to selection pressure that will make this organism change. So proponents theorize that memes are a viral phenomena that may evolve by natural selection in a manner analogous to that of biological evolution. Memes do this through the process of variation, mutation, competition, and inheritance, each of which influences a meme's reproductive success. Memes spread through the behavior that they generate in their hosts. Memes that propagate less prolifically may become extinct, while others may survive, spread, and, for better or worse, mutate. Memes that replicate most effectively enjoy more success, and some may replicate effectively even when they prove to be detrimental to the welfare of their hosts. So this is another idea. This evolution doesn't necessarily mean like that an organism is becoming somehow better. It's just that it's adapting to its environment by selection pressure. And also the meme doesn't have to be like something that gives their host some sort of welfare. It's just the pressure is over reproduction. The only thing that memes need to be successful is to replicate more effectively. So now we want to study what are these memes of creating. So we have to think about another level of, let's say, reality. We have the physical reality, and then a metaphysical reality that emerges from memes. And this metaphysical reality starts with the ideas, right? The memes themselves. The memes are ideas that can be reproduced, but these ideas will create institutions, for example. So what are institutions? Here in this quote from Structure and Changing Economic History from North, we read, a set of rules, compliance procedures, and moral and ethical behavioral norms decide to constrain the behavior of individuals. So institutions are the next level of memes, right? Memes are like somehow units of ideas or behaviors, but institutions are like a more structured entity that we accept as something of our society or life. So, for example, religion is an institution. The state is an institution. These things are abstract things, but we regard them as real. We regard them as something that we need to live our everyday lives, and we change our behavior according to these institutions. The next the next level is organizations. So institutions give rise to organizations. So if institutions are the rules of the game, organizations and their entrepreneurs are the players. Organizations are made up of groups of individuals bound together by some common purpose to achieve certain objectives. Organizations include political bodies, economic bodies, social bodies, and educational bodies. So this is again North, but this quote is from Economic Performance Through Time. So now we see this structure emerging. We see that from the memes, the ideas. A meme, for example, is the idea of gods or demons, good and evil, law, property, crime. These are all memes, and memes may well start like a story, and it is probably more easily convey as stories. It started like stories that our ancestor will share in the campfire, but these stories held in them some teachings, some morals, and this is in the heart of the meme, right? So these memes will teach about gods and demons and all these things, good and evil, what is right, what is wrong. And then these memes will create institutions. So one of the first institutions was religion. Like these ideas will be structured in a religion that will give us like the pattern we should follow in our lives, how to behave and such. But other institutions would be the state, social classes, science, family, education, market, labor. All these things are institutions. So they are abstract. They are like a structured a structure that organizes memes, but they are not yet what forms our society. It's not enough with institutions. We need then organizations like to enforce those institutions, and those organizations would be like the government, the church, clans, guilds, companies, and corporations. And of course, the memes change through time with as we spoke, like the evolution. They are subject to selection pressure, and then this what is underneath or changes in society. And now I think we can identify who or what domesticated humans, and the answer is the memes that generated our society. So as we have species determined by genes, and these species are evolving through time, and they can exert influence over their environment. They even can domesticate other species. We have societies that emerge from memes, and these societies with all these organizations, at the end what is visible and more concrete are these organizations. These are the ones that have domesticated humans. And one of the first organizations and institutions that we have that we can point to as the one that effectively perform the human domestication is religion, and from there we have all the other like institutions and uh, practically any other institution and organizations came after that. So this is now an interesting lead in a future video. We will be talking more about religion as a driver of agricultural and farming society. So I hope you enjoyed the video and hope to see you in the next one. This is Cyber Settler signing off.